Hi everyone, I'm Tiffany Benson, one part of Team Benson, and today I'm going to do something that has been requested a lot. Today I'm going to take you through the steps of starting your own small space garden. So for all of you guys that have pots or have a patio that you can put pots on, or you just have maybe just a little space on a balcony, I'm going to teach you guys what to do and what to look for and how to start it. Being the case that I started this small space garden all by myself. So I hope this video is going to be helpful for you guys. There's going to be a couple continuity issues, like my nails are going to be different, or I'm going to be wearing different clothes because I have shot this in different times. Even my phone is now different. So stay tuned, and I hope this is helpful for you guys. Okay guys, so when I started my garden, I didn't have any idea of what it is that I was doing. I actually went to Home Depot a lot, and I test ran a lot of different things, a lot of different types of soil, a lot of different types of mulch, different types of plants to see what will grow well. And over the course of this now year and a half, I've kind of gotten a science down to what I'm good at growing, what grows well in my climate, and then also what grows well with my schedule. One of the things you want to plan is, if you are the type of person that you're not going to have a lot of time to make sure that you're watering every day, or make sure that the plants are okay, make sure that you get soil that's going to help you with water retention, and maybe get plants that aren't going to be so super needy. I also like to point out that I started with plants that I didn't want to buy at the grocery store. So my first plants that I originally started out with were herbs, because they were super expensive for me to get those little containers of herbs, and I cook with fresh herbs every single day. If you guys have been watching my videos, you've heard me talk about how I use fresh herbs every single day because I'm trying to get away from using a lot of bottled seasonings. The other thing was, I was freaked out about lettuce, because one day I walked into the grocery store and the lettuce that I had just purchased the day before and we ate for our famous Taco Tuesday all had recall signs saying that it was infected with, I think it was E. coli. And so I really got nervous about buying lettuce, but we like tacos, so I had to figure out a way to make sure we had safe lettuce. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you guys to Home Depot with me. We're going to talk about a couple things, and then I'm going to come back and we are going to plant out one of my pots together. Okay guys, so I just made it to Home Depot. So what we're going in there for are, we're going to look at some starts, we're also going to look at seeds, and then we are also going to look at potting mix and the different types of potting mix that they have, and mulch. So let's go inside. Okay guys, so there's all different types of herbs, as you guys can see. There's even like flowers so that you can make teas and different things like that. And then there are different types of the herbs, so like spicy oregano versus like original oregano. And then there's also like some broccolis and some tomatoes, cauliflowers. These are lettuces. And then there's some that are already in the pots. Now these could be good for you guys. Like this is a patio tomato, which means it's not gonna pretty much go outside of this pot. Maybe a little bit taller, but as you can see, it's already starting to flower to produce tomatoes. You want to start looking at the health of it. So if you're gonna buy it, having things that have like leaf curls or spots on them, these are not healthy leaves. So you want to make sure that you look at it before you buy it. Okay, so we're over here with some of the more like cabbages and lettuces. So look at these guys. These leaves are really spotted and yellow, so that means they're unhealthy. So if you're going to get this plant, that means you're going to have to baby it in order to get it completely healthy. Now if we look over here at this cabbage, this cabbage, no spotting on the leaves. There's maybe like 1 or 2 like yellow leaves that you're gonna want to prune off before putting them in to your pot, but this leaf looks overall healthy, so that would be something good that you guys can get. Over seeding, so let's see if we can find one. These are spinaches. So as you can see, this spinach has 1 per container. Sometimes they have more than 1, so you would know that, okay, if you're going to get that one, you're going to have to prune it back a little bit. There's some celery. Okay, look at this, guys. As you can see, these ones need to be watered. They're wilty. They're not really that well taken care of. So when you're looking at a big box store, it's not going to be like a nursery where they are taking care of the plants. Usually at big box stores, they're only watering them. So this, it's wet, but it's not really taken care of, which is why this plant is wilting. Also, there is organic options too as well, so you guys can look at some of the organic plants. I am going in, since we are going to start an herb garden, and I'm going to look at some of the herbs that I can get in order to put those together. Okay guys, so you can now also go the seed route. The seed route will give you a ton of seeds versus 1 plant, so that way if something happens to it, then you can just plant another one if it's in that time. So one of the things you want to look for, or when you're picking a seed, you want to look on the back to see when you should plant it for your area, and then also you want to see like the spacings and if it's potted friendly. So it being with this little check mark right here means that this would be a perfect plant for your patio. So make sure when you're looking at different plants, you're checking that, because if we were to pick up something like corn, it is not going to have that on the back. So if you plant corn in a pot, it's probably not going to do as well. Alright guys, so when you're looking for soil for your container garden, make sure you pay attention to the signs. This one says in-ground soil, so I know that this one isn't going to be good for a container. This one is an all-purpose container mix, and it is organic too as well, so I know that there's probably not going to be craziness going on in those. And then this one is another organic potting mix. So if they say container mix, or if they say potting mix, that means that they're going to be good for your container garden. So you don't want to get things like peat moss, or you don't want to get things like straight compost, especially because compost, you're going to need to compost down a lot even after putting these out of the bag and into your garden. When I have net problems, fungus net problems, it usually comes from this mushroom compost. When my compost gets too wet and the water's not draining, then I start to grow mushrooms because it's mushroom compost. So the next thing you guys want to look at is mulch. I use this mulch right here. It is dyed red, but it is a cedar mulch. Wood mulch for me in Arizona helps retain a lot more mulch, or not a lot more mulch, but a lot more water if I use wood chips. There's also different, so these are more like chunks of wood versus the one we have over here, which is like a shredded wood. So this one is a little bit easier to break down in your garden. If you're doing something in a pot, I'd probably go with that one. And I'll do a close-up so that you guys can see what it's all about. But this one is the garden time. Also, everybody always asks, how do you not have so many bugs in your garden? It's because I have red cedar. Bugs do not like cedar. Okay guys, so this is the soil that I went with. It is the Nature's Care, and it's an organic natural potting mix. Now, as I was talking about as we were at Home Depot, you want to make sure that you get a potting mix. This one I'm using because it helps with retaining water. And that's really important here in the Arizona desert. And then I did already have some mulch up here. It is the Garden Time Shredded Cedar mulch, and this one helps because it helps repel a lot of pests. So with that, and it'll help retain water. So between these two products, my pots are going to be pretty well safe from losing a lot of water and from being attacked by insects. Okay guys, so if you have watched my previous videos, you'll know that I did a segment on different items I found at Dollar Tree. So not only are we gonna start our own patio garden today, but we're gonna do it at an inexpensive price because we're gonna use a couple items from Dollar Tree. Now, one really popular thing that's going on right now is the 3-tier stackable tray or pot from Dollar Tree. So I'm only going to do 2 of these pots today because I'm going to do something different and a little special with my stackable trays. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them total, and I'm going to make them do something. So that's going to be in a later video because there's a couple things that I still need to pick up for them. But right now we're going to pot out 2 of them. So let's get started. Okay, so for this, one of the things we're going to do is talk about different ideas for your small space. So I'm going to be planting herbs. So I have green onions here that are dripping water. And then I also have lemon thyme. I use lemon thyme so much because it is an amazing, wonderful plant. And it's so yummy on everything. So if you guys haven't tried lemon thyme, I suggest it. So I have lemon thyme, and then, oh, look, I have 2 lemon thymes because my 1 lemon thyme plant is getting a little bit of a beating. And then I also have a chamomile because I also really love chamomile tea. Now, also, with addition to that, I have some seeds. I have some Aunt Molly's ground cherries, and I have this free seed that Baker Creek sent me. It is a cinnamon basil. If you guys haven't seen my tiny little seed haul that I got on Instagram from Baker's Creek, visit my Instagram, which I'll leave right here, and you can see what seeds I got from Baker's Creek. So one of the things you want to do is, as a first-time gardener, you're going to be waiting for it to grow. And what I mean by that is you're going to plant a seed and you're going to wait. You're going to wait. You're going to wait. And it's going to feel like it takes 12 years for that little seed just to pop up. It really doesn't take that long, but it's going to feel that way. So one of the things you can do, and that's going to help you, remind you, and kind of get you in the flow of being a gardener, is plant starts. Because starts are going to give you instant gratification. Right now, I can already pull some of these and cook with them instantly. Same thing with the green onions, and the chamomile, I'll have to wait for it, but at least it's green and bushy and I can see it. So that'll give me some type of instant gratification that I can plant it and walk out the next day and say, I'm using fresh vegetables and herbs from my very own garden. So I'm going to combine that with also some seeds that I want to grow. So that's going to give me that instant gratification while I wait for these seeds to pop up, and it won't feel so long like these seeds are, like I'm waiting for these to pop up. So let's plant all this stuff out. Okay, so I have my actual scoop here. I use one of these because I feel like it holds a lot more dirt when I'm putting it into a pot. So I have my dirt down here. And when scooping it out, you guys can see that the dirt is really, really dry. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fill it so that it takes up at least the bottom layer. Okay. And so when I get to the consistency, or like the amount of dirt towards right here, then I'm going to start adding a little bit of water to kind of get the dirt moist. Add some water. And I'm just going to stir it around a little bit. So one of the reasons why I do this is so that my plant isn't going into dry soil, and then also because you'll see that once you wet it, the soil is going to kind of compact down. So you want to make sure that you add enough soil. One time I just filled it with soil, I added the plants, and then I watered it, and the soil was like halfway down, and it wasn't enough soil to pretty much last the plant. So as you can see, it's compacted down a lot. So I'm going to keep adding soil and then keep adding water to it too as well to kind of get it mixed up, and kind of like a brownie mix is what I'm going for. So I would like to point out that this video was inspired by my very own sister. I have been telling my sister, who I will insert a photo right here. She is a photographer and you can see some of her work. So she is a photographer in North Carolina, and she came to visit me and wanted to know why my food tastes so good and why it tastes different than all the other foods. And I told her it was because, one, I made it with love, and two, I made it with fresh herbs from my garden. And I've been telling her that fresh herbs do provide a lot of health benefits. I'll be doing a video about this too later, guys, because I feel like there's not enough information out there about the different health benefits that actually herbs provide. So I told her if there's anything that you can grow, at least grow fresh herbs so that you can get those health benefits while you're still eating things from the grocery store that may not be as healthy as they could be because they're not using fresh ingredients. So I'm excited when she called me and said, "Hey Sissy, I want to know how to start a garden on my patio." She lives in an apartment, but she has a patio. And she said, make a video so that I can follow along. And I was happy to oblige, because anytime my family members want to use fresh ingredients, I'm down with helping them, because then that means when I go to their house, I get to eat fresh herbs. So I'm gonna continue to add dirt. And now we're at a point to where we can start adding the plants. So this one is starting to look like this. As you guys can see, it's almost to that first rim right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add the plant to it. So I'm going to scoop a space down for it so that I can fill it basically all the way up to where that line was. So I'm going to pull it out. Now, if your plant is giving you a little bit resistance because it has some root growth, the best way is just going to be to tip it over and kind of squeeze at it. So squeeze at it, squeeze at it. I learned that plants are a lot more durable than one might think. But eventually it's going to pop out. And I'm going to check it to see how far I am in the pot. Now when I look down here, I can see that the actual root line is over where the pot is. So I'm going to dig down even more. So now I have it to where it is completely even. So I'm just going to fill this little pot and make sure that the soil that I have it growing in is going to be covering it. Now when you're looking at pots too, you want to make sure that you're growing things that can grow in pots. I talked a little bit about this when we were actually at Home Depot, but when you're looking at pot size and different things like that, make sure you're growing plant that's not going to grow outside of that pot size so that it doesn't outgrow the pot. Herbs can typically outgrow a pot if you're growing them in the ground. I have some growing in ground that are completely and utterly huge, and they're the same herbs that I put in pots. I just use them a lot quicker, and I don't expect for them to get super big just because they're going to be growing in a smaller space. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to plant out both times and the chives here. Chives are a little bit more wet. I'm making a mess. We're going to plant those out and get it all around. Now this is going to be at the bottom of one of the tiers of my tier, so I'm not going to plant anything directly in the center here. I am gonna put dirt, that way if the roots do grow out, they can. If you had just a regular pot, you don't have to worry about that, but this one is gonna be a stackable one because I found them at the Dollar Tree. So I'm not gonna plant anything in the middle. So I'm gonna take the very last one. And this one's stuck again because we have that root growth. So we're gonna squeeze. And then just kind of move that dirt around. Now, if your plants are really, really overgrown in the pots, you can kind of break up the roots a little bit at the bottom. I typically don't do a lot of that. I just kind of plant it as it is. But I have seen some people on their YouTube channels, they break up the roots to kind of get them to grow around. A lot of times if I am planting something, I do it with starts that I started on my own or with ones that are pretty well established, so I just don't really worry about that part of it. And it's a step that, like I said, you can do, but if you don't do it, it's not going to be the end of the world. So let's get an aerial view so you can see what this actually looks like. Okay guys, so this is what the first one looks like. As you can see, I have a blank space right here because that is where I'm going to stack this one or the other one on top of this one. And then eventually these are going to all stack on top of these three with the added bonus of what I'm going to do with my stackable trays. But you guys will have to stay tuned for that video. It'll be coming out later on this week. Okay, so I have some soil going in this one. This is the next one. And this one's going to be the top of my tiers. So I'm going to plant something directly in the middle, which is going to be the chamomile. It's going to go directly in the middle, and then I'm going to plant the Aunt Molly's, 2 of them on this side, and then the basil on this side. Now, when you're looking at spacing for plants, know that you want to have something that's going to provide your plants with a lot of space. I know that this chamomile is going to get pretty big and it's probably going to flower, so that's one of the reasons why I'm putting it at the top. I also want to put it in a little bit of a controlled environment, which is also why I'm putting it in a pot. So I'm going to put that one directly in the middle. I'm going to get some dirt around it to pile it up. Make sure that one's good. And then now that I'm adding seeds, I'm going to fill these ones up with dirt. So before we didn't fill it all the way up because we want it to be able to actually fit the start in there. Right now it's going to be a seed, so we're going to fill it up to the top. So later in the video, I'm going to show you guys, after I get this all filled, I'm going to show you guys some different types of pots and different types of selections of pots and what you might need to do to some of the pots in order to make sure that they are going to be perfect for your small space garden. So let's get that going. So if you guys also have any tips, feel free to put them down below in the comments. I learn a lot from you guys, and I appreciate you guys commenting on my videos and giving me tips, because I am not an expert gardener. I don't know everything when it comes to gardening. I'm just a girl here in Arizona in the city that is trying to do her best to provide for her family. So if you guys have additional tips, please feel free to share them, because they not only help all of the other people that watch my channel, but they also help me out a lot too as well. So we're going to stir this up, make sure that our soil is nice and moist. One of the things you guys want to make sure you don't want to do is compact the soil. So you don't want to be crushing the soil down. So as you can see, I'm just kind of mixing and lightly lifting. I'm doing that with this. If I had more space, I would do it with my hands, but these are kind of small pots, so I'm kind of just doing it with the scoop. So I'm going to add some more dirt to the top of it. And once again, you want to get these nice and full, guys, because the soil is going to kind of go down, so you want to make sure that you have enough soil in here that it's going to provide a lot of nutrients to the plant. Okay. So I think that is just about perfect. and I am going to grab my Aunt Molly seed pack, and I'm going to read the back of the packet. So this one says that I am just going to plant the seed and lightly sprinkle soil over top of it. So you're not going to plant this one too deep. This one says only about 1/8 of an inch. Okay? So one of the things I also like to do is plant 2 and then to 1. Now what that means is that I am going to take 2 seeds out of here, which these are super tiny seeds, and I'm gonna plant, actually with these are so tiny, I might even plant more than 1, or more than 2. But I'm gonna plant like 2 or 3 of them. As you can see, these are super, super tiny seeds. I don't even know if you guys can see that. Give them a little bit of spacing and plant them, because what's going to happen is I might get germination from 1, I might get germination from 2, or I might get germination from 3, or hopefully this doesn't happen, but none. So I want to make sure that I am getting some type of germination and I'm not just waiting and waiting forever, just waiting for the plant to grow. So I'm going to plant a couple, and then once they germinate, if all 3 of them germinate, I will reduce it down to 1. If 2 of them germinate, I'll reduce it down to 1. But at least I'll have some type of germination, like almost a guaranteed germination for my plants. So I'm gonna do this side. So I'm just gonna make little divots. So I'm just kind of really just making a dip in the soil, because these are such tiny seeds. The smaller the seed, the more shallow you will want to plant it. And then I'm just going to cover it up. And then I'm going to go over here to the basil. And this one does not have any planting instructions, but we're going to look at the seed. And we're going to decide together how deep we should plant it based off of the seed size. So these are pretty tiny little seeds too, so we're going to plant them very shallow. So I'm planting just a couple of these. Basil I don't really ever kind of thin down, so if 2 of them grow, then I let them grow. Only if it's like a whole lot of basil that grows in, then I'll thin it down to 1 or 2 plants. So now that I have it, oh, I need more water. Be right back. Okay, so now that I have my water, I'm going to just water the seeds in. So I'm gonna lightly water the top. Now when I say lightly, I mean lightly. You can even do this with a spray bottle, because you don't want to really move the seeds around. Usually I use my big water hose, but we are going to, and it has like a little soft mist on it, but we are going to do this with everything we would have if we just had a patio. So I'm going to do that. Now you can start these seeds inside your house, but a lot of times I know you guys probably won't have that, so you want to make sure that you're starting them at the right time of the year. So once we get this over here, I will sit down and I'll talk to you guys about best times to start your plants. So we're just going to close these seed packages back up. Do not throw away the rest of your seeds. Seeds can last for a long time. I have planted some seeds out here in my garden from when I first started gardening a year and a half ago, and they still sprout. And I've also seen people that have planted seeds from 5-6 years. So as long as you're keeping them in a dark, cool place, they're going to last. Make sure they don't get wet. So while you're watering things, make sure you keep them away from the water so that they don't get wet. Close them back up and save your seeds, because now that means these seeds you won't have to buy again for a while, because you're only using a couple at a time. So you can get involved in a seed swap or just have seeds forever as long as you take care of them. So let's go put this one on top of the other one. And just like that, it's gorgeous. So I carefully stacked the top one on top of the second one, and I'm gonna put it right here next to my big garden bed, my patio garden bed, because we're growing on a patio. And I'm going to make sure it gets a lot of sun. So this is in a space that's going to get a decent amount of sun throughout the day. And I'm just going to sit here and let it grow and make sure I water it. So let's go talk about pot sizes and different pot preferences that I use, and talk about just a couple of other things, little tips. Okay, so let's talk about pots. All pots, you want to have some form of draining at the bottom. So as you can see, these pots, we poked holes. They had little areas where you could poke holes, so we poked holes at the bottom because you want to make sure that your pots don't hold all of the water. There's also pots like this that do hold a little bit of water. It's kind of like a water reserved. I like these here in Arizona, and when I first started planting my garden, because it helped to where I didn't have to remember so much to water it, and if I skipped a day, my whole garden wasn't doomed because it had a little reserve of water in there. So these ones are really good. They have a little tray and they have holes in the bottom of them, so it drains into this tray, and it also protects it to where if it's too full, they will overflow out of this little tray down here. And then also you can save these pots and reuse them. These are the ones that the little starts came in. You can start your own little starts, or you can just actually add more herbs. So you can put some of the dirt that we had, put it into these pots and grow some seeds in there, put some seeds in there, and they'll grow just fine. Now, when it comes to Arizona gardeners, we sometimes garden in 1,000,000 degrees. So one of the things I do is I make sure that if I have a pot that's black, that's going to attract a lot of heat, then I make sure that I put it in an area that's going to get afternoon shade, so that it's not going to be direct heat in the hottest part of the day, because that can cook your plants. So you guys will notice that when it starts getting in the later part of the summer, I'm going to shift anything that I have in a black tray over. It also helps during the cooler parts of the months. As you guys see on my garden tour, some of my darker pots are on this side of my garden because they get more of the afternoon, or less sun, as I would say. So I take those pots that are going to absorb heat, and that way the roots are staying warmer longer in those pots. So, but either way it goes, you want to make sure that they have drainage. Drainage is important because it can make your soil rot, and you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So guys, also you want to make sure you're planting your seeds or your transplants at the right time of the year. You want to make sure that it's not going to be during frost to where your plants are going to die because it's too cold outside, or if you're in Arizona, you want to make sure that you're planting a plant that's going to last during the Arizona summer. So I have put together a video where I got free seeds from my local library, and it also had a chart in there. Make sure you guys check out that video to see where you can get your chart at, and then also kind of see how I decide what plants to put in. So make sure you guys are planting them at the right time. So also don't forget that pots come in all different shapes and sizes. This one has a little bit of a cage on it. So I grow my peppers and tomatoes. I actually add this larger tomato cage for my bigger tomatoes, but I grow them inside a pot normally. Even this is a pot. And these are different size pots, guys, that you can fit onto your patio. So don't be afraid and think that you just need these tiny little small pots. You can still grow bigger things by just having bigger pots and making sure that they have enough room for them to grow in. Lastly, I would like to mention that you guys probably noticed that I did not put my wood chips on top of my pots yet, especially the ones that still have seeds, or I'm planting seeds in them. And that is because I'm going to allow the seedlings to come up. Now, if you have a seed that's that super tiny and they can't even handle a lot of being planted really deep in the dirt, you don't want them to be trying to come up through like some wood chips too as well. So allow them to have that space to where they can come up, get a little bit big, and then surround them with the wood chips. So in later videos, you guys will see me add the wood chips to there, and I'll probably add a couple around just the starts that are there. Those are pretty full plants and they kind of fill the area, so it's kind of protecting that soil anyway from getting overheated. So I hope that helps, and I hope you guys are starting your small space gardens, because always remember, even a small space garden can provide you tons of food. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that helps you guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section and I will be getting to them. I do answer all the comments that are left down to there, or I just say what's up and I say what's up back. So thanks guys, bye.